episode 114.
That's our new intro. We're making a new intro. Welcome.
We probably should.
You know what? Yeah, I think you're right. It's been long enough. Maybe we should make a new intro. Welcome everybody to episode 114 of Discourse in Magic. I want to take this opportunity to welcome a bunch of the new people. Not because we've had a large influx of people. No. Mostly just because I haven't welcomed you guys in a while. So welcome. Thank you. I know there's a bunch of people that have been joining us. Thank you for joining us, following us here. These episodes are with Tyler and I. We talk about what's going on in our lives, what our views are on of magic. If someone sent in an interesting question, we go humdinger and dive into it, and we just talk magic. So if you like that, here we are. We're here,
and it's just us, so we don't have to wear clothes or anything.
No, it's great. So it's really, and we can sit on each other's laps and everything. Okay, anyways, Tyler,
we share a microphone.
That's all good. Tell me about your month.
It's been okay. It's been slow magic performance wise, but productive magic creation wise. I'm working full time now at a Muggle job, selling e-cigarettes. I'm sure I've mentioned that previously, but it's been fun. I've been liking that. And the reason why I think I've been so productive creatively is because now I have to prioritize my downtime. Before, all I had was downtime and I had to motivate myself to do magic. And now it's like, okay, I have a couple hours. I'm going to do as much magic as I can in this small window. And yeah, it's been good. I have a gig coming up this month on the 28th, which I'm excited about. My first corporate gig, which, well, not my first corporate gig, but like my first official corporate gig where I'm representing a company, and like it'll be good.
Exciting.
That's pretty much it. I mean, I've been really thinking differently about magic and less focused on, doing stage shows and getting out there and performing, and more just sort of on what I want to
enjoying
do and enjoying it. And
it's such a different can of worms when it's your job and when it's not. And one of the things I wanted to touch on is what you were talking about there, where when your work is what you do, and when it's done when you go home, you start really planning your downtime, and you plan yourself to do things like magic or things like that. But when magic is your job, then maybe sometimes you feel guilty if you're sitting there reading like a magic book, which I often find myself doing.
Because you're like, it's going to take at least a year and a half for this to get into a show. Yeah. What am I doing? Right?
That's exactly right. Like, I'm just reading a magic book and I'm like, how much is this helping me? When in the end it is, it's show business. It's part show and part business. But you forget that. So it's interesting where you just get a whole different view of magic when you do it either part-time or full-time.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Dang it. It's interesting when a lot of people go full-time because of that's the way they feel. Or maybe the opposite. There's a ton of people who did a lot of magic and they were like, you know what? I don't think that this is for me.
Yeah. It makes me feel like I'm back in my high school days, which is when I was most passionate about magic, because like then I was doing homework, skipping meals and staying up till 4 a.m. Just to try to figure out and answer my questions and work on new tricks and come up with ideas and stuff. So I don't know. I feel like I'm sort of back into that world where it's like my magic time is my magic time and that's it. And I'm happy about that. I'm really enjoying it. I've started to sort of step away from card magic, and that's not because I don't like card magic. It's still my go-to in terms of performing. But I don't know. I feel like my hands were just a little bit tired of cards, and I was stuck in a sort of mental world where I was like, the card's going in the middle and I'm going to do a shift. Nobody's going to know. Yeah. Right. And now I'm working on things with physical
objects. You take a break. You change things up a little bit in the magic that you do, and you take a break, and it helps inspire you, and maybe you come up with something great, or maybe you come up with something that returns you back to playing cards. That's what I'm thinking. No, I'm just playing.
No, that's true, though. That does happen. Because sometimes I'm like, well, I have all these cool things that'll happen physically and like all this shit. And then what if the message was written on a playing card? You know what I mean? Like,
and
it
you're
does
always
work
just
out
like,
sometimes.
this should be better with a card. So I really like that.
You've had a pretty busy month.
Yeah, I've had some interesting things come my way, which are very exciting. So the first is I had a guy who I met at a business conference send me an email about making videos for him for publicity for gummies.
Oh.
Yeah, for some gummies. So they're like sugar-free, vegan, gluten-free, like all these different free gummies. So we're producing some magic videos about the gummies, which is very exciting and very interesting to me because it's the first time that I'm doing magic as like a
marketing
creator and marketing and whatever, and not just for the sake of magic. So that's going to be very interesting.
The gummies are like magic.
I know gummies.
They taste good.
Exactly.
There's nothing in them.
Everything I'm going to say is going to be like, these gummies are magic. Well, anyways, so I have a lot of fun ideas and I'm super excited about that just because it's a new, interesting project that I get to use magic.
I'm actually kind of excited to jam on them with you if you're down.
Well, absolutely.
That sounds like
I need a ton of help and I need a ton of help. So I'd love to. So that's super cool. I'm doing, and that's actually what that email was that just went ding in the inbox is the final details. But I don't know if I mentioned it on here, but I teach an entrepreneur how to do magic online weekly, which is very cool. And I teach him magic for free and he gives me business advice and it's a dope relationship that we have. So anyways, I convinced him somehow to come to Toronto. He lives nowhere near Toronto. So I forgot. It'll come back to me. I convinced him to come here and he was like, let's do a show for like 200 people while I'm here. And I was like, that's such a headache. It's going to be such a headache. And all the benefits from it in terms of meeting people and whatever are going to be very much mitigated for me because I'm going to be busy running around producing the show. So I'm not really going to get to meet a ton of these people. I said, I have a better idea. Plan a lunch with like 20 people who are super important, who you know in Toronto, that you'd love to invite out and impress. And I'll do a private show for them and we'll all have lunch. And he was like, that's a way better idea. I was like, awesome. So basically I'm doing a private show,
which is your preferred style,
my preferred style with 20. All I know is they're important people. That's all I know, right? Like 20 important people in Toronto. And it's going to be really cool. So that I'm very excited about just because I don't know. I honestly
why wouldn't
don't
you be?
like.
It sounds sick.
Yeah, no, because it's like another gig, like because I do stuff like that a lot. But it's so cool that it's come to fruition.
Yeah, like you do stuff where you like contact people or someone who knows you contacts you and is like, hey, do you want to do a show? You're like, hey, let me do a show for you. This is sort of like you built a relationship on the foundation of magic, and it led to an awesome opportunity.
How it went down is just as cool as
the gig itself.
That it exists, right? So, and I'm very excited for it, and that should be coming up this month. And the other exciting thing is the Art of Magic show, which is super interesting. It is the first. It is not the first. It is the most ambitious project that the Art of that. Okay, let me regain my thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay,
center yourself.
It is the most ambitious project that Toronto Magic Company has taken on.
There you go.
I know. Really,
it wasn't that hard to say.
I fought back a hiccup and I was confused. But here's the deal. It's basically a half art gallery, half magic show. We had our first one in May. It was awesome. It was really cool. We had Nick Wallace. We had Tom Durkin. Ben and I did some performance together, which I'm happy to talk about because that was an interesting process, learning how to perform together. Like that was crazy. So yeah, it was a really cool event. We invited a bunch of friends and family, and the event just sold out. A lot of people we didn't know came, which was great. And we've launched the second one, so it's a very exciting. It's a project that I hold close to my heart. It's one of those things that in the beginning of the podcast we would talk about how cool it was that an idea, we would sit and we would talk about an idea, and then the idea would convert into us starting to make some steps, and then eventually something would happen. We'd be like, this was just an idea and now it exists, right? And we used to talk about that a lot, and that's how I felt again after this happened, is I was just like, we're just sitting in this place, and I came up with Art of Magic, and then, or like, I don't know, we both came up with these ideas, and he said, let's do this, and then now the show exists. And it's a cool show, and it's interesting, and our next show is with the Evisons.
That's going to be unreal.
Very exciting. And it's just cool to be in the front seat of this developing while interviewing people like Ryan Plunkett, and hearing about the Chicago Magic Lounge and all of the magic that's going on just around the world, the public shows.
Yeah.
The public shows.
You can't fight back those hiccups. They lead to coughs.
Yeah. The public shows that are happening everywhere, the Joshua J stuff, the Derek Delgado, obviously. And it's just, everyone keeps saying that this is the era of public shows, so it's just cool to be in the front seat of producing that.
Yeah,
with Toronto Magic Company.
Speaking of the Chicago Magic Lounge, there's a few things that you were saying made that show so successful. Do you want to touch on that?
Magic show?
Yes.
When you say successful, do you mean the show itself? Do you mean the promoting?
Chicago Magic Lounge tells you what it is. Art of Magic tells you what it was. The name. You can describe it.
Well,
right?
So that was really big. So the show that we used to do with Toronto Magic Company, which was very fun, was called Tricks in the Six, which was a really cool show. And in it, we had 3 magicians, and there were always different performers. So are you laughing because I keep calling the show a really cool thing?
No, I'm laughing because I just thought about how it's called Tricks in the Six, and it happened in an area in the city which is infamous for prostitution. That's why I was laughing at that.
That's actually the thing, right? So it was called Tricks in the Six, and we would have 3 performers. And the truth is, it maybe just wasn't clear what in the hell Tricks in the Six was. No matter how many posters we put and how many photos we put to explain it, if you're if you're not in the know, then you think Tricks in the Six could mean anything.
Yeah.
We've had people misunderstand it and think it was called Tricks in the Fix. We've had people not know that the 6 is slang for Toronto. I'm sure at least one person listening to this didn't know that the 6 was slang for Toronto, let alone the people in Toronto don't know.
Which is crazy to me, but like... I
agree, but that's fine. I mean,
not everybody listens to Drake, so
exactly.
There you go. I don't even listen to Drake, but I know.
A lot of our target market is older, and they would have never heard that the 6 is Toronto.
Yeah.
So compare the confusion of a title Tricks in the Six to a title like The Art of Magic, which was just obvious that it's a half art gallery, half magic show, or at least obvious.
Or at least a magic show.
A magic show with art, or an art show with magic. Like, at least that's a little bit obvious.
Yeah.
And it helps. And that was... Obviously, I'm not surprised, but it was still a little bit counterintuitive to me. It's still counterintuitive to me because my opinion always on things like brand is the name isn't terribly important because people will like make it synonymous with the brand. So like Apple is a fruit. Like
that's a sick name though.
It's 100%. It's a great name, but you just think like what is a TELUS? What is a Bluetooth?
That's a better.
What is a BlackBerry? What is like none of these things? These are just words that like what is a BlackBerry? It's a fruit. Like maybe the secret is fruits, but there's phone companies called like Orange and stuff. Maybe the secret is fruits, but. I feel that names don't terribly matter, but this was a cool side-by-side example to see like maybe I'm wrong and maybe really what you're searching for any name for any project is not some sort of clever like the Toys Boys or some rhyming whatever. It's
recognizable clarity,
right?
Yeah.
So that was a really big thing that we learned, and we did some fun things on Instagram to sell out the show, and the show really just sold out through word of mouth, and we're excited about the second one. It's selling pretty well, and I know we usually don't talk about our upcoming guests, but we'll be doing an interview with the Toronto Magic Company just to see things from
in
in an hour actually.
Yeah.
But to see things just from a different perspective and to see if we can dive deep into how this thing got started and maybe where this thing is going. So those are some of the exciting things going on.
Speaking of cool projects and ideas coming to fruition, there was another thing that you did in this past month.
It's funny that I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we've we should stop hanging out.
Basically, I went to see Greg Fruin's show in Niagara Falls, which was super cool for so many reasons. And I mean, I am a little uncultured boy from Toronto. I know it sounds like a big city.
You're not from Toronto. You're from Thornhill.
I'm from Thornhill, which is like you explain what Thornhill is.
It's like. You can call it the suburbs.
It's a suburb.
But it's not at the same time. It's like its own separate community.
Yeah.
Where they basically go into uptown Toronto and get scared because they're downtown. That's what Thornhill is.
That's true. Yeah.
Promenade Mall.
But anyways, I grew up in Thornhill and Toronto, and I've only been to a few select places in the States, and none of them have I gone to see big, huge, gigantic shows anywhere. So I went to see Greg Fruin's show, which was at a big theater that he built, and there was amazing tigers, and there was dancing women, and things disappeared and appeared, and the lights were amazing, and the sound was amazing, and it was just a really cool high production value show. It was cool to see that side by side with what we're slowly learning how to produce with the Toronto
sort of
Magic
carnival
Company.
town, right? Like Niagara is very much so like street performers and
well, there's just a lot of weird zany
like the Ripley's
entertainment
Museum, the Wax Museums,
it's like
casinos.
It's like if it feels like it's a joke on entertainment. Like it feels like it's like
Canada tried to make a Vegas and just
gave up halfway. They're like, we're gonna eat them the budget, and then they were like, okay, we'll just make little ice cream stands.
It's what the Toronto. That's what the TTC is to the New York subway system.
That's exactly
right. It's like we're gonna do it good. Fuck it.
Yeah.
It works. It works. People are here. They're using it. We'll stop now.
That's
love Niagara Falls.
That's one way to think about it.
It's a great place to be.
Honestly, it is a fun time, and we had a good afternoon there, and we went to see the show. The show was awesome, and I don't know. I just loved it. It left me inspired. I'm gonna try to bring Greg on. I spoke to him a few times about it. He's just the busiest man on earth, and he's one of Canada's most successful magicians, and it's well deserved.
And has magic been in his family for a while? Mm-hmm. Was his dad a magician?
I think so.
Is he like a Farquhar?
I think there's a lot of magic.
He's an Eastern Farquhar.
I think that might be true. So yeah, that was a very exciting time. And I really enjoyed going to see that show. I don't know. The only weird thing I have to say about it is after he made a tiger appear, he made 1 inch of Oreo frosting appear, which just confuses me a little bit.
Yeah, but you don't see the tiger grow.
No, and also whatever. So, it was just a dope show. It was well done. So super happy about that. Big round of applause for Greg Fruin. What else? Anything that's been exciting you or titillating you in magic?
I'm trying to think. I've been I don't know. I've been really trying to think of ways to use magic discreetly in my content, because for work I have to create social media posts every single day, and I'm looking for ways to use magic where I don't say, hey, I'm going to do a magic trick. I just want it to be visually entertaining and confusing and have people sort of experience it, be interested, and then be like, what did I just really watch? You know what I mean? So I work at an e-cigarette store. I mentioned it earlier. So I'm coming up with as many vape tricks as I can and things related to that. So that's been an interesting challenge. So far, I've just been making shit appear and disappear in a big cloud of smoke. I'm trying to be a little bit more creative than that.
You did one day where you drank coffee and smoke came out, and then you smoked a vape, coffee came out of your mouth.
It's actually really fun because I have an e-cigarette that produces such a big cloud of smoke. I can just blow smoke at the camera and duck, and it looks like really magical.
That's super cool.
I don't have to do any video editing at all. Like, it's just blow and duck, and then that's the end of every video.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Do you do that?
I haven't. I'm still editing the video that is going to come out with that for the first time, but that's how I'm going to sign off every video now.
Well, that's very exciting. I'm a big fan of that. Just anytime you get a chance to change your context of looking at magic, it has a cool positive effect. And it's cool that it's like you're now in the world of thinking about vape magic, which is just as cool as it is ridiculous. And I have a boss that's super on board, right? Yeah. They're like, we want you to do this. So it's fantastic. Could you imagine, like, if you treated people walking into the store like people walking into a magic shop, and you like make vapes and stuff appear and like stuff? You're like, here, have you seen this?
Like, I'd like to try the Matata. I know.
Yeah, exactly. Right? You could do so much cool stuff. That's really cool. One of the things that we do in these episodes with you and I is if people submit questions at some point, we try to tackle them. Yeah, we try our best to tackle them in our knowledge and experience, whatever that may be. So this sort short mid-length email. I'm not going to go through the whole
Mid-length
thing.
email.
I'm not going to go through
Very specific.
But no, but just because
it's not long.
No, but he talks about the episodes, and he talks about an old conversation that we had. But the downright crux of what he's asking is this: currently, I'm struggling with different definitions of what is magic to me and how I could use that when I'm writing my scripts. So could you guys discuss this in a future duo episode, which is time, because I've recently settled in to a definition of magic that I'm playfully a little bit. So I'd love to hear is there any definition that you are playing with, toying with? Is there a way to describe magic that feels good or good enough for you right now?
So a lot of people present or say magic is new information presented in an interesting way. I like that quite a bit. I think it needs to pose a question you haven't asked before. It doesn't have to be just unanswerable. Like, if I were to say what happens after you die, that's not magical to be like, I don't know what happens. Right. You know what I mean? But taking something that I feel like it more comes from taking a solidified idea, right? And maybe like taking someone who knows what happens after they die and then being like, but what if, right? And it's that what if that, and it's not like it might be real. It's just I don't know what I just experienced.
And then honestly, there's so many ways to look at this question. And one of the ways that we together used to look at it, and I know one that I was obsessed with, was talking about it like math, like a theorem. And we've discussed this before, where you say like A proves B, B proves C, C proves D, D proves E. And that's how you do a math theorem. That's how you prove that A proves E. In magic, you do that whole set of steps, except at the end, you've reached somehow a contradiction. And the way that you've done that is somehow along that journey of A, B, C, D, E, you've snuck past a lie, right? So here's a cup, here's a ball, this is a cup, that's all true. I put the ball in the cup, great. Take the ball out of the cup, great. Put it in my pocket, snap my fingers, the ball's back out of the cup. So it produces a paradox because the ball couldn't have gone from your pocket back to the cup. The truth is that you lied. When you said that you took the ball out of the cup, you didn't really. It was still secretly hidden inside. So that was the old definition that I was playing with a lot. And then the one that sort of entered and approached when I spent some time with Garrett Thomas was Surrealist Performance Art. That is a really, really comfortable definition of magic for me. And it's one that's been rattling around in my head, helping me decide whether or not I want to perform certain things. Because I get to ask myself, like, is it clearly a performance? Is it surreal? Is it surreal? And that best describes the type of magic that I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
The words that I used to be saying, I used to be like, I want to do and I actually see it. I have it written down somewhere. Like, the words I used was theatrical comedy and theatrical premises. And because all I could think to myself is, if someone is coming to watch the show, they secretly want there to be a potion. Or they secretly want to be able to fly. Yeah. Or, all these different... And the way I was putting it was like these fantastical, like fantasy, but I like the word surreal because it gives me a little bit more playroom.
Yeah.
When I looked up the definition of surreal, it has a lot to do with like dreamlike state, a non-believable, like...
I'd like to read a little bit. So I'm going to paraphrase this because it's a lot, but he was asking how to use it in the context of a show. Right. So I have this show that I've been working on, and the whole beginning of it is how I got into magic, but told in a kind of interesting way. The basic thing that it says is I didn't have any self-confidence, and I thought I could trick people into liking me and respecting me. I had a lot of learning disabilities when I was a kid, and it was really hard for me. So it's a little bit depressing, actually, at the beginning. There's a line that says, I actually thought I could trick people into giving me the attention I knew I didn't really deserve, which is really generally how I felt. But it's not necessarily about, then I say, like, it's not really about how I got into magic. I know why I keep doing it. People just tell me to keep doing it. But I don't know when it first actually grabbed me. Like, I started at 12, but I'd seen magic before. And then I'm talking about what I felt was my first magic experience. So I was obsessed with holding the end of a piece of chain and slowly lowering it into a pile, because in my childlike mind, I thought if I do the same action over and over again, it should produce the same exact pile and the same folding pattern every time. But despite how many times I tried, it would never happen. That logic didn't make sense to me. But I wasn't amazed by that, because it's a bad carpenter that blames his tool. I just thought it was my fault, which I guess it is. Like, I'm not a robot. I'm not perfect, But to my surprise, when I lifted the chain up every time, it would unfold in the exact same way, of course. But keep in mind, I'm like 5 to 7 in this range, right? But that was new information to me. Thinking that if I'm fucking it up when I put it down, I should be fucking it up when I pull it up, right? So this idea that there was something I thought I shouldn't be able to do, but I could do, was magic. And then in the context of this trick, the chain floats on its own so that I can share the magical feeling of watching a chain unfold, right?
Interesting.
So it's not magic for anybody, not even me at this point, but I then take that same experience and try to make it magical by changing, by their logic, it shouldn't be able to unfold on its own. And then it does. And then we share a magical moment with a piece of chain.
Cool. I'm a little bit lost. Explain how that was like using. What was his question? What was the question that you're answering with that?
How to use your definition of magic in the context of performance.
So how does that use your definition of magic in the context of performance?
Because I was experiencing something surreal and new and exciting, right? I was experiencing this moment of, wait a minute, no matter how
you're sharing sort of a version of your experience.
Yeah, feeling one of my first moments of what magic feels like, and then trying to translate that using deception.
One of the things that I think about, sometimes I always have these jokes. Like, sometimes I think like this. I'm like, so beautiful. All these amazing magicians all working so hard together to be able to, like, give other people the joy of not understanding how, the world around us works by ways of just a small miracle. Then the other part of me goes, we're a bunch of weenies. Right? So I think about that all the time. And I think about one of the times that I think about magic very beautifully, not like we're a bunch of weenies, but when I think about it beautifully is I say, how cool is it that magicians perform magic that's sometimes about or very close to or reflective of stories of one of the first times they watched magic, or one of the first times that they were fooled, or a magical moment for them. Because it truly means to me that people are trying to get the audience to feel the way they felt and experience what they experienced. And there is something very beautiful about that. And
that's something I really like about the story that I'm telling here. Again, I paraphrase that horribly. It's written a lot better. But one of the things I like about that is that it's not the story of me going and seeing a magician do a magic trick. It's the story of me experiencing magic in my own everyday life, which I'm sure they've felt. They've thought of the song and it comes on the radio. It's the classic example, right?
It's sort of a subtle moment, which turned into a magic trick. So that's very cool. And one of the things that I think is true, and it's interesting that he brought up the question, is I think the tighter that you have a hold on a definition of magic, or a definition of magic for you, or who your character is and things of that nature, the easier it is to select and script material.
Yeah, for sure.
It's something that I've been thinking about a lot. I feel like I've entered a new world of understanding who I am just a little bit.
Especially if you want to be like, I don't know how to phrase it, because like we haven't broken up into categories properly and officially yet, but like a magician's magician. Like, I'm not magic for magicians, but like, you're not there to tell jokes and get people to laugh. Not saying that you aren't, but like, your focus isn't like prop comedy that involves magic tricks. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I mean, like, for me, I'm predominantly a magician, but I would love to be very funny. Like, that's
yeah, no. But I'm saying, like, there's people who don't need to know what magic is because they're just going to, you know, have the hat that changes colors a bunch of times and puts a weird face on the kid. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that, like, it will always help, but it's not necessarily, you know, the most important for the comedy. No. Understanding what magic is to you will always help, but it's not necessarily the most important for like a comedy magician who's there to mainly tell jokes and do a couple magic tricks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're trying to do surrealist performance art, then it really helps. Versus if you're just trying to be an entertainer, it's not necessarily the most important. And not saying it won't help, but I don't think you need to necessarily be like, oh, I understand what magic is, and that's why I use it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think any of that is. I don't think it's necessary to have like a firm definition of magic. There's plenty of incredible performers who are, you know, do maybe mostly comedy who don't think about it that much.
Or like the example I'm going to pull up, and sorry to throw you under the bus, I don't actually know how much you think about it, but based on, you know, the conversations we've had in the past, I'm going to use Mike Durzo as an example.
Yep.
I don't think he's sitting down and having the most philosophical discussions about magic in his own head and all that. He's thinking about, how do I get people entertained and get myself booked again right after. There
is a lot of different ways to approach this thing. And, you know, some might argue that having a weekly podcast till the end of time, you know, discussing the finer details of the theory of magic is purely holds people back from succeeding. Like, you could argue that 100%. For me, most of the magicians that I look up to have very big libraries.
Yeah.
Most of the magicians that I look up to have a lot of experience, have a lot of knowledge as well as experience. So I think there's no shortage on this podcast of us making clear how important experience is. And for me, most of the magicians I look up to have both of those things. So I don't feel that I'm doing a disservice by producing unlimited content that, you know, by spending an hour listening to this, you're spending an hour not doing whatever, something else that maybe you spending time cerebrally, like, thinking about magic, like, might not be the best for your magic career. For me, I'm at a point in my life where I'm still in a learning phase. I'm 23, you know, like I'm
not for long.
I'm not for long. Yeah, soon I'll be 24. But I'm 23. I'm still in a learning phase. So
Carat gold. Sorry,
I don't even know what you're saying.
24.
Oh, okay, I understand. 24 karat magic, actually. But yeah, so that's how I feel about it. But yeah, you know, there's no rules. There's no rules to any of this thing. You know, we learn that so quickly when someone's like, oh, I've been doing magic 3 years. And then they've got like big, huge shows, or they're like, you know, making viral videos. And you're like, well, goddamn, I've been doing it like 14. Like, wow, how is that fair? Right. So like, there's no rules in this whole thing. Anyone can do anything the way they want to. For me, I take a joy in growing an understanding of magic. And I do truly feel that I have less anxiety about my lack of understanding of magic now than I ever have before. And that it has slowly gone that way. Like,
I have a question for people at home that I'd like answered for next month.
Booyah.
Is very, very futile question, but how many of you actually put your decks down when you're listening to this podcast? I know a lot of you do other things because, you know, that's what people do when they're podcasting, but we talk a lot about how it's just theory and you made it the whole way through without, you know, you took your pinkies out of the deck. But how many of you are sitting there and practicing your pass, practicing your double lift? I
don't mind. Like,
obviously we want you to practice. I'm just curious because it's sort of been part of our brand, and it might just be a fun little lie that we tell people. You know what I mean?
Listen, I know I listen to podcasts when I do anything, like when I'm like washing dishes or driving or walking in places, whatever. Like, so I don't care. Let people mix it with their practicing time if they're trying to like nail a move or something. Like, do whatever you want. I don't care. It's so funny when people meet me and they go, I listen to podcasts all the time to go to sleep. I'm like, I guess maybe somewhere in there's a compliment,
like,
but I don't know. It
hidden.
sounds like I put you to sleep, but thank you so much for saying that.
Yeah,
that's cool. I'm glad we spoke about that. And one of the things that I'm glad about having these episodes, you and I, which we've mentioned before, is just that we get an opportunity to document how our thoughts and feelings change through time. Oh no, that's
crazy.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
It just showed me an article.
Sorry. Just I got a news update and it's a little bit shaking. I got to text my sister.
Anyways, it's just cool to document our feelings on these things as time goes on. And I'll tell you, I'm planning on doing doing a lot more performing for, I'm trying to get booked a lot more. I'm putting the pedal to the metal about it now that I've put a whole year and a half into performing open mic nights and, all these different stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I know I still have a lot more ahead of me. I'm still on a learning journey, but that is just time for me to put the pedal to the metal because I really enjoy it. And I'm just trying to put the motions in place so that I can keep this thing alive forever.
I'm actually pretty excited. It's weird because I've always wanted to just write a show for myself, and I never complete it. I always start, I get a little bit through, but every year, because it's your show and you're going to do the follow through, we sort of jam on what you're going to be performing, and I'm really excited to do that.
Yeah.
It's actually like one of my favorite times of the year.
My summer tour?
Yeah, because I don't have to stress out about like I'm about to do this fucking show and it might be bad. I just get to throw out my ideas and you can push them aside or take them in. Mm-hmm. So
and this year's really cool because I have in my tool belt the things that I've done at Newest Trick, as well as the knowledge that building something special, I have the experience of doing something brand new at Newest Trick so many times that I'm way less nervous to try something brand new at camp, even though it might be for 200 people. Like, I know how to rehearse it and make it good and whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or for 600 people, like I'll make sure that it's fantastic before it goes up there. So that's super exciting. Is there anything else that we want to chat about going on in our lives, in magic, in cool thing news, in any world before we send the people off? I just want to say, send us more questions in the forms of things like DMs
we like
and emails, and because we love to
I won't say answer.
them.
We like to talk about them vaguely.
One of the things I think about, I know that this might sound absolutely bonker beans, but one of the things that I think about with this podcast is that we're super lucky to live in Toronto. There's a lot of magic, and literally magic is my everyday. I wake up and there's always magic. But there's a lot of people who listen to this because they don't have that.
Yeah.
And I think while sometimes I'm like, yeah, what a bummer that we can't get to the bottom of the question, what is magic? Like, bummer. Like, I wish we could solve that pickle. The other part of me is like, we get to allow people into these conversations that may not be happening to them. And one of the things that was included in this guy's email, Philip G, by the way, and thank you so much, Philip. One of the things included in his email was that he can't, all these people in his magic club and things like that won't talk to him about what the definition of magic is. They think that he's crazy and out of his mind to be spending time talking about the definition of magic. So, Philip, don't worry. We love talking about it. And for people who live in nowhere land.
And I'm sure that we're not fully answering your question and that your question's going to change based on what we say. So keep sending us that email being like, update, this is what I want to know now.
100%. One of the things, actually what Tyler said when I read off your email offline before it started is he was like, sounds just like us when we used to panic about what magic meant. So that's just nice. It was nice to hear. So thanks for the email. If any of others of you have emails, please send it. A few quick reminders. Number one, check out discourseandmagic.com. We're going to be doing some fun things there, posting some cool blogs and things shortly. And soon I'll be taking the t-shirts down for being on sale. So if you want them, go get them, because otherwise they will be gone forever. That's one. Number two, if you haven't signed up for the newsletter, that's on the website. You should do that. It's fun. I'm sending out some very cool emails soon. And number three, you should follow us on Instagram. We share really the dopest magic content that exists based on magic theory. There's literally nobody who shares better magic theory than we do. And I say that confidently. And if you think that I'm lying, tag me in a better magic theory account.
Podcast.
I don't care. Just Magic Theory. If there's an Instagram account about Magic Theory that's doing doper shit than we are, I want to know about them. But I haven't found them yet.
I mean, like, there's, I guess, you wouldn't consider Dennis Bear's thing.
I'm talking about Instagram, on Instagram.
Oh, just
on
Instagram.
On
okay,
Instagram.
yeah.
I'm trying to tell people that they should go see our Instagram because it's very cool.
Just Instagram.
And no, there's people doing better things for Magic Theory than this podcast, but there's definitely no one doing cooler stuff on Instagram for Magic Theory. So check that out. Thank you for being here. We're literally endlessly humbled by you guys listening to this podcast. And yeah, we'll
message us and we'll shout you out too.
Yeah, we love that.
we love shouting people out.
We're fun. Anyways, we will see you all next Thursday. And for those of you that join the email list, I'm going to be sending an email soon offering up 10 quick
$1,000.
No, opening up for 10 little meet and greets where we can get on the phone and just chat about you and magic and life. I want to meet some of you and get a feeling for how you guys are taking in the podcast and developing in magic. So thank you all so much, and we will see you all next Thursday.